Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today is August 25th, 2025. Howard, are you enjoying the bull market?
Yeah, man. Listen, it's fun. There's a lot of silliness. We can see it. You'll probably get to it with open door, and I could. There's just a lot going on. A lot going on.
Yeah.
This
Uh,
is this is what happens in. I'm not even going to talk. Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about the indexes first, and we'll get into it.
okay. So last week we talked about the possibility of small caps waking up and leading. And this is exactly what happened after a brief pullback to the rising 20-day moving average. As on Friday, the Fed chair basically hinted that the Fed might be finally ready to change policy and start cutting rates. And the market really loved that, and why wouldn't it? When you have a potentially rising inflation and the Fed cutting rates, it's an explosive situation for stocks in general. Um, and we saw a pullback in rates. We saw a pullback in the US dollar, and then anything else, like especially stocks, went up. Small caps led significantly. IWM was up about 4% on Friday. Home builders among the top sectors as well. So as much as people might think that cutting rates by 25 or 50 basis points, it's irrelevant, the market doesn't seem to think so at this point, and it's reacting. And we're still trading near all-time highs, despite the fact that seasonally, August and September are supposed to be negative. This year, the market is just not following that seasonality. It's just much stronger than many have expected. So we're back near all-time highs, and we see market breadth expanding, and there are more sectors participating. And there is something for everyone, and even China woke up, which is normal when you see a pullback in the US dollar. I think it's natural to see some foreign stocks to bounce. And here you see a breakout attempt in the Chinese internet ETF. But the weak dollar is not the only reason behind the strength in China. It seems China has really um, tried to diversify its export, and it's not really relying on the US. US is only has 5% of the world populations. There are a lot of other people around the world that which living standard has improved significantly in the past 20 years. And, they have purchasing power, and China is taking advantage of that. And now they're exporting to many other places. And that's why if you look at their numbers, they continue to grow. So they don't are, and they're not going to be as dependent on the US consumer in the next 5 to 10 years, I think. And the market is kind of realizing that, and we are seeing some strength in Chinese stocks. And probably, some of them, like Baba, can use some consolidation, but there's definitely been it's been one of the sectors that benefited on Friday. So it remains to be seen if it's going to follow through.
Yeah.
Is there
Okay.
is there anything particular that you're seeing that you want to cover? And because
Well, no, I mean, I think the most important thing is, what I call the degenerate economy and index. People go through some of the stocks. I added a firm, AFRM, and I think like we're living in a perfect environment for this to really go on a run. So again, this is valuations aside, just storytelling and fundamentals. I've seen those patterns before. I look at Dutch Brothers.
yeah,
Coffee prices are This is purely selling energy drinks. It's setting up again very well. Numbers are growing great, not cheap. Um, the Chinese version, Luckin Coffee, I added to my portfolio. Um, Again, they're opening stores in China with cheap, and in the United States now. If you go to the monthly, this was
yeah.
like a scam.
They have like a couple stores in New York, I
Yeah.
heard. Yeah,
So I think new management. They don't have to cheat. You have to assume Chinese people cheat, so keep that in mind. Like it went to a buck. StockTwits kind of gave up.
It was
Um,
delisted. It was delisted.
Delisted, but StockTwits community stayed with this. Here we are back at all-time highs. They're opening a crazy amount of stores in China, plus US stores. So that one's interesting to me again, but you got to buyer
Yes, and they're
beware.
charging $2 for their
Two
coffee.
bucks.
So
And
yeah,
Americans care, man. If they can get a clean place to get coffee and pay a Dunkin' Donut price, that's interesting.
yeah.
So that's kind of the impetus there. But you also have just these signs of lunacy open to, again, retail is in charge right now and moving stuff around. We'll see if this changes. Like look at Open Door. This is just was a SPAC. There has never been a business. There still isn't a business. And retail's taken over the storytelling, got the CEO kind of ousted and started trending, couple weeks ago on StockTwits at around $1, $1.50. Um, Short sellers, this is kind of like a GameStop. Short sellers are getting killed. Now, in the real world, I think Redfin got bought
Yeah, they
by,
got bought,
I think,
but
go look at Zillow. Zillow's the actual company with a business model. I think it's just Z.
the
Z broke out, and I was talking about that. So I think if we go to the monthly on Zillow,
yeah.
um, if Open Door is going to have a business model, Zillow's got all the same data. So again, if you want to own the actual company with the brand and the product in the space to benefit from it, and it's a $21 billion company, that's the one I'm considering because anything Open Door says will be their business model, right? Zillow can do and has all the same
What
data.
was the company that acquired Redfin? I forgot their name.
I think Rocket did.
Yeah, Rocket, exactly.
It's very tied to interest rates. I
RKT.
think it's
Yeah.
home builders. I think it's just RKT.
Yeah.
And again, very interest rate sensitive. I think I talked about the home builders as being XHB and Meritage homes. If rates really are gonna, you saw a big move up in home builders predating this. So I think that's already starting to see the move from like maybe that was priced in already with with last week when it came and kind of got soft on interest rates. So I think a lot of what we're seeing is priced in. So people have to just be careful not to chase and take clean breakouts, right? Um, Everybody seems the data's out there. If you cut at this point in the cycle, stocks are higher most of the time 12 months out. But that doesn't mean they can't drop 10% before so just know your field position. The data is on your side if the Fed gets accommodative here. But a lot of, you've got 20% move off the bottom. Some people are already like front running this stuff. So it's not like as easy as everybody makes it sound, right? The time to buy home builders was, when I talked about 10, 11% ago when I started bringing it up here. S&P looks good. The Dow broke out to all-time highs, right?
Yeah.
I think Nvidia's in the Dow at this point. Um, and Nvidia reports earnings this week. I'm trying to think what else. Biotechs, small caps are going to work. Again,
Yeah. Biotech
it's
have a
not my
chance, but
thing, but like go look at the companies that make up the XBI, and you can go do some homework. And there's probably some companies in there that are heavily shorted that you could buy. These are regional banks. They're
yeah.
very interest rate sensitive. They look great. Um, so there's just a lot of bases.
Yeah. There's just a lot going on.
There's a
It's
lot
not
of
it's
bases.
not just the Mach 7 and
Yeah. And
you
this is
know,
something that I talked about for years, is that the public markets, especially in an AI world, are so much more interested than the private markets. Robinhood has gambling, you can trade, you have StockTwits with trending. Um, you know, Robinhood continues to digest an epic run. It's past Coinbase in market cap. Um, Coinbase is my wife and I watched an interview with Brian Armstrong. We want to buy the stock again down here, but we haven't yet. But I think he 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 got caught off guard. Robinhood's out executed him around stocks and gambling and prediction markets. But Coinbase is a really interesting technology and crypto company, not just a brokerage. So I don't know, like hard to be bearish other than people are doing stupid things, which is not a good enough reason for
Yeah.
there to be a top, right?
Yeah,
Like
but
the one thing that worries me, it smells a lot like 2021, but the difference is that's about the only thing.
the Fed is about to cut really, not to raise.
Yeah, the world's open. We're not reliant on Zoom. In fact, Zoom is kind of an afterthought. Um, people are, yeah. I mean, home prices are still a big issue, but it's been this way for a while. It's been unaffordable, and the world seems to be living with it. So, again, at some point, these things matter, but the youths of the world are traveling and doing their thing and getting on with their lives. So, um, so I'm not sure how to think about it. Like, scares me like the open doors of the world are happening, but it's such a microcosm.
Yeah, it's such a small piece
Yeah.
of the market, and you always see those crazy, degenerate
Yeah.
speculations
Yeah.
when
So I
the
don't want
market
to
is hot.
overread into it with the SPACs because I don't like it, but it's also the same people and they're coyotes that are always around doing their thing. And it's a distraction from like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google. I mean, listen, Google 209 is my biggest position. I don't like that makes sense to me. So this trumps open door, no pun intended. Like this breakout in Google is more bullish than what open door makes me bearish. You know what I mean? So I think you have to stick with the price action over worrying about greed and like stuff. But let's also be honest that it's just, it's 100 Bitcoin treasury companies on top of it. You're supposed to not even buy Bitcoin that way. So I'm saying like, there's a lot of supply out there being created.
Yeah.
But there's only one Google. There's only one Google, and I'm really bullish on this price action because there really is only one
Are
Google.
you still buying?
I am not buying more. I mean, on this breakout here, I'll probably add, on a weekly breakout, I would probably add, but because this is a big breakout, Ivan. You're
Yeah.
talking about, you've got the government lawsuits, and then last week there's, great news in terms of Waymo, New York, Apple may use Gemini and Siri. YouTube continues to dominate, and right? The new
Yeah.
Pixel 10 is supposed to be better, like way ahead of the iPhone. So even I'm considering switching to a Pixel. And once you switch off an iPhone, which I don't think people at scale are doing, but this Pixel is getting a lot of.
Well, if you're considering, then
If you want to use
that's a big move.
Gemini
Yeah.
and you want to use Gmail and you want to use Maps, eventually you're going to switch to a Pixel, right? And Calendar. Um,
Or let us know how it goes when you switch.
I'm not quite sure. I'm waiting for more people because I don't need to be that guy. Because my Apple phone isn't broken, but I'm also such a Google fan that I may do it.
Yeah, makes
Okay.
sense.
All
All
right,
right,
buddy.
Howard, thank you.
Hey,
And
everybody, have a great
see
week.
you. Thank you. See you next week. Bye.
Okay.